Well, I just finished tumble polishing 6 barrels of rocks and minerals from the state of Utah. And I thought some of you might enjoy taking a closer look at some of the beautiful treasures that can be found in the state where I live. So let's get started. This plate contains banded calcite from the Nephi onyx quarry. It's not really onyx. Onyx would be crystalline quartz. This is calcite, much softer stuff, but it does have the appearance of banded onyx. And over the years, it's been a very popular collecting place for people to go easily find some quote-unquote pretty rocks. In fact, it was one of the very first places that I went to collect when I got into rock collecting many years ago. So I decided to take a little bit of it and throw it in a barrel and tumble it. As you can see, it took a very nice polish. And again, this would be really fun stuff to do some wire wrap jewelry or just display with your other polished rocks. I know my family's going to be fighting over a piece or two of it anyway. The material on this plate was collected in Greasewood Draw, a famous location in Utah for collecting beautiful red and yellow jaspers. This particular area, it contains many geodes, and geodes are concretions that have hollow crystal-filled centers, and traditionally those that have crystal-filled centers that are solid are called thunder eggs. Well, you can see some of those here. Just beautiful, jasper on the outside, and on the inside there's usually celestite, quartz, calcite, various combinations of that. Here's one where there's actually a little bit of crystallization still in the middle of there. Here's another piece of that, another piece of what would be called a thunder egg probably. It's very fun to collect because of the bright colors. It's always fun to take a group of people down there and see the looks on their faces as they find this bright stuff sitting in the sand there. So again, this is from the Jurassic Curtis Formation, approximately 157 million years old. Well, here we have a plate of tumbled and polished Varicite from the Lucin area of Utah. Utah is actually famous for its Varicite. In fact, some people call it Utah turquoise. Unlike turquoise, this is a hydrated aluminum phosphate. Turquoise also contains copper. And so this is used for jewelry, just like turquoise is. In fact, sometimes it's used in place of turquoise. The Lucin area, basically the whole strock there is the Permian Rexture that's about 270 million years old. And solutions rich in aluminum phosphate, percolated into the rocks and created these beautiful veins of Varicite. The most famous Varicite in Utah probably comes from the Clay Canyon area, the famous Little Green Monster Mine. It contains mixtures of a lot of very rare phosphates. This stuff from Lucin is beautiful green, and some people actually prefer this for jewelry. I collected this a number of years ago, and I've enjoyed it ever since. About 2.5 million years ago, during the Tertiary period, there was a large amount of volcanic activity in western Utah, in an area that is now known as the Black Rock Desert. And many of these eruptions threw out tremendous amounts of lava, and some of that lava cooled very quickly, becoming volcanic glass or obsidian. Now, this particular variety is rich in a high-temperature crystallized quartz called cristobalite, which creates the snowflakes. I've collected this over the years a number of times, and I enjoy doing it every time I take somebody, group, my family or friends down there to do so. Everybody seems to like finding beautiful pieces of this material. As you can see, it takes a very beautiful high polish. It's often used in jewelry, and it's highly desirable. On this plate, I have a few specimens of what's known as bird's eye marble from the Bird's Eye Marble Quarry in central Utah. This material has found its way into the Utah State Capitol and a number of federal buildings in the Washington, D.C. area, including the Lincoln Memorial. It's very interesting how this formed. About 60 million years ago during the Paleocene epoch, northeastern and central Utah was under a large lake called Lake Flagstaff. And algae formed around shells and twigs and other kinds of debris. And these little algal balls were in the sediment, and eventually Lake Flagstaff dried up, and time moved on, and this material became fossilized. And so what you see here are the fossilized remains of those algal balls circling all those different objects. And that's why there are so many interesting and fun forms. It's really fun stuff to collect. I've only been there once many years ago, but I have a nice little box of it, so I decided to tumble a little bit of it this time. Well, if you think you're looking at a plate of polished river rocks, you're not far off. I collected this plate of rocks from the Quaternary alluvium deposit north of Hanksville, Utah. And really, these were probably in a river, an alluvial fan, a beachfront. About 1.6 million years ago is when this deposit was laid down. And when I'm down in that area, I like to just take a half hour or so with a little pail and go around and collect a few of these beautiful rounded stones. And I decided to throw a little batch of them in the tumbler this time. I'm really happy I did. They turned out gorgeous. The piece in the middle there that's clear, if the lighting was a little bit different, you'd see it's a beautiful rose quartz. And there are some in there that just have beautiful patterning and color in them. Anyway, it was really fun. In fact, this would be another fun place to take people who'd never collected rocks before because of the variety and the color of the rocks. I collected these interesting pieces of conglomerate. I've always been interested in conglomerate when I'm out rock collecting. Conglomerate's basically a bunch of little stones and pebbles that have been cemented together over time. I found these in the Quaternary alluvium deposits that are north of Hanksville, Utah. It could have been an ancient riverbed, alluvial fan, a seashore in that area. But it's kind of like collecting river rocks in the desert. There's lots of beautiful stuff there. The area where I collected that material is about 1.6 million years old. But it took a pretty nice polish, and I'm pretty pleased with it. This whole plate is pieces of petrified wood from the famous Morrison Formation that's Jurassic in age, famous for the dinosaurs and Jurassic Park and all that kind of stuff. I collected this in an area in southern Utah. The wood actually in that area is so ubiquitous that you can hardly walk a couple of steps without finding petrified wood. It's actually silicified wood technically, but we call it petrified wood. And I've collected a little bit here and there over the years, and I had never tumbled any of it until just this tumbling run, and I'm very pleased. It's beautiful stuff, and I think the family is going to be fighting over some of these because they are so beautiful. This plate also contains material from the famous Morrison Formation. In fact, upon closer inspection, some of this may be silicified wood as well, but there are pieces of jasper, agate here, just beautiful. Again, if you've ever had fantasies of a place where you could go collect beautiful rocks where they're not hard to find and you can just find them in any direction, Utah's Morrison Formation is a great place to do that. And so here's just an example of some of the beautiful rocks that can be found in southern Utah. Well, here we have a plate of tumbled and polished so-called wonderstone from the famous Vernon Hills location in Tooele County, Utah. Technically, it's a welded vitric tuff, which basically means it's small particles of volcanic rhyolite that was spewed out of volcanoes in that area during the Oligocene period about 30 million years ago. And what happened is that these little particles became cemented together under a tremendous heat and pressure. Again, we call that metamorphic rock. And over the years, groundwater containing iron oxides seeped into these rocks and created the intricate and beautiful patterns that we see in the rocks today. It's highly collected, highly desirable. I've seen wonderstone from many areas of the world. I've yet to see any that's more beautiful than that comes from the Vernon Hills of Utah. Well, I hope you've enjoyed seeing some of the rock and mineral treasures that are to be found in the state of Utah where I live. And hopefully some of you will maybe have created a little bit of an interest in picking up a tumbler or two and tumbling some of the material that's found in the area where you live. The world is full of beautiful rocks and minerals, and when you polish them, it creates a little treasure that you can enjoy for years to come.